Today's problem is distance of nearest cell having 1, difficulty medium. Given a binary grid, that's a 2D matrix, where each cell contains either 0 or 1, find the distance of the nearest 1 for every cell in the grid. Distance between the two cells, okay, well, they go through a distance formula here, but we're really not going to use that. I mean, we're going to use a breadth first search and just count it as we go. But basically, what the distance formula here means is that you can move from any cell in one of 4 directions: up, down, left, right, assuming that you're still within the bounds of the matrix. So every move is every move increments the count. So in this first example, the input, the zeros, none of the zeros well, let's say it this way. All of the zeros can be reached by one move from one of the ones. This one, number 2, this one's a little bit different. The bottom right corner, that is not adjacent to any cell containing a 1. So to get to that one, you're either going to have to start in the top right and go down 2, or start in the bottom left and go across 2. But each move from one cell to another is considered, one unit of distance. Okay, let's see. Grid size, that would be the number of rows. That is going to be between 1 and 200 inclusive. Same thing with the number of columns, between 1 and 200 inclusive. Time complexity, O of n times m. So that's the number of cells. And yeah, I mean, we'll process each cell once. Auxiliary space, O of n times m. So we get to have some kind of sort of duplicate data structure. Usually for a breadth first search in a matrix, auxiliary data structure might be a visited array. In this case, we're going to keep track of which cells are visited in a different way, and we're going to use a distances array, which will really be the solution. We'll build up the solution as we go. We're going to have to convert it to a list of lists. That's not my favorite thing, when the input comes in as a 2D matrix, and really the easiest way to solve the problem, the most convenient way to solve the problem is via a 2D matrix, but the answer has to be a list of lists. And essentially it just requires copying the matrix to the list of lists. It's, well, enough about that. Topic tags matrix. Yes. Graph. Yes. I mean, breadth first search, yeah, you can always think of a matrix as a graph. Breadth first searches are typically associated with a graph, and that is what we're going to do here. So let's scoot this over a little bit. All right. First thing that we want to do is to, let's see, well, let's get the number of rows, let's get the number of columns. I created those as class variables. I also created the distances array as a class variable, just to avoid passing them as parameters. And rows and columns, those are just constants. So let's see, we have the rows, we have the columns. We are going to create a 2D array called distances, same dimensions as the input matrix, and we are going to keep track in there of the distance of that cell from a 1, from a value of 1. We're going to need a queue to do the breadth first search. We're going to need, and there are different ways to do this, but we're going to need some method for generating indexes for adjacent cells. So what we're going to use is a dr delta row dc delta column to create the new indexes. All right, next, populate the queue. Well, actually, a couple of things. Initialize the distances array and populate the queue. So going through the input array, if the input cell is a 1, then the corresponding cell in the distances array is going to be 0. Now, we're going to do breadth first searches from 1s, not from 0s. We're going to do it from 1s. We're going to do what's called a multi-source breadth first search. We're searching from the 1s. It might seem like a good idea to search from the 0s, but what happens in doing a breadth first search, if you start from the 0s, for example, this second example here, where the lower right cell is a 0, if you do a breadth first search from there, you're going to first go up and say, oh, that's a 0. You're going to go to the left, that's a 0. But see, now you've made 2 moves. Okay, that's not so good, because one of these on the next time it comes out of the queue, you'll find a 1, but you're going to count it as 3 moves. You're going to count an extra move. On the other hand, if you start with the 1s and move towards 0s, what will happen is, well, there are a number of places that you could start. You could start from any of these 1s on the diagonal. And I don't know, let's say we start in the top right corner. Breadth first search, that is 1 going to that square, and then that goes in the queue, and then from that 1 we can get to this square here, and that would be 2. So we start the breadth first search from the 1s, right? So set the distances to 0 in the distances array, and put the indexes in a queue. Put the row and column indexes in the queue. If the cell is a 1, if the cell is a 0, this is really what we're using in place of a visited array, is initializing the 0s to integer dot max value. So if we see max value in a cell, that means we haven't visited that cell yet. You have to have some way in doing a breadth first search to know whether a cell has been visited, so that you don't keep revisiting the same cell or cells and going around in circles. All right. So we've populated the queue. We've initialized the queue with the with the cells containing a 1. And now we do the breadth first search traversal. So while the queue is not empty, we'll dequeue the first set of coordinates. The first element in the array is the row, the second is the column. Now we've got to check adjacent neighbors, up, down, left, right. Okay, so 4 of those, I put this in a separate method. You don't have to do that, but to me it really clutters up the if statement. So what we're doing here is when we generate the coordinates for a neighboring cell, we need to make sure that both the row and column are within the bounds of the matrix. We also have to make sure that the cell has not already been visited. So that's what's happening here, and it'll return true or false. So if it is valid, then the neighboring cell will be the current cell, or the distance. The distance will be the distance of the current cell plus 1. And we will enqueue this new cell to continue the breadth first search. So that's it. It's really just, it is really testing your ability to write a breadth first search. And if you're really prepped for tech interviews, you should be able to write a breadth first search in the language of your choice. What else is important here? You do need to recognize that it's not going to work for you if you try to do breadth first searches from 0 to 1, but it will work if you do breadth first searches from 1 to 0. And the last thing here is just copying the matrix into a list of lists. Okay. Let's try it. Okay. So please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and what else? That's it. We'll see you next time.